So, good day, friends. This is Dr. Bob Hamilton, and you have tuned in today to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. So, before we begin our day, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. It means much to me that you are here, that you're taking time from your busy schedules to listen to these conversations that I have. And if you like what you hear, pass it on to family and friends. I like people to listen to my show, not so much for me, but for the people I bring on. And today I'm bringing on a magnificent lady. She has a story to tell, which is very compelling. Her name is Kate Santoro. She's a marathoner. She's run, how many marathons, Kate, have you run?
Probably about 30, I think.
30,
30.
okay, 30 marathons. Okay, that's about 30 more than most people have run. She is a mother of 5 children. She's a wife of 30 years. She has gone through a lot. She she writes like she runs. And I'm reading the back of her book here, Bold, Breathless, and Barefoot. And when she is she's gone through a lot of heartache, you guys. Let me tell you, she could tell that story. She lives down in Los Angeles, but she is from Boston and she loves Boston. And she recently wrote a book. It's called Truth on the Run, a memoir by Kate Santoro, Santoro. Her book is available. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Kate Santoro, welcome to the Hamilton Review.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being here.
Such a
Yeah.
pleasure to see you, albeit via Zoom, but I still, even looking at you, I get a very good feeling of who you are and the gentleness and kindness of who you are. So listen, you wrote a book. We're going to talk about your book, but before we get there, I like to have my guests introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their background, where they're from, how they grew up. I know you're one of 6 kids, which is amazing. My wife and I have 6. You know that, and so we share a little bit of the understanding of what true chaos is in
Yeah.
so anyway, Kate Santoro, welcome to our show. Kind of back up and tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you. I just can't believe you have a show. This is so cool. Um, yeah, so I'm Kate Santoro. I grew up in a little town called Situate, Massachusetts, and I went to high school in Hingham, Massachusetts, college and a master's degree, and then got married pretty young and lived in London for a little bit. I was a writing major, and I always loved being fit and active and loved moving just to keep myself healthy. But I never really expected my life to evolve in the direction that it did. So um, the Wednesday before Memorial Day, after the wildfires hit, my brother passed away, and I have no idea. But I woke up in the middle of the night and said to my husband, I said, I think I have to write a book. And I went and packed a huge bag of notebooks and walked to the Manhattan Beach Library and wrote for about 450 hours straight. And then I know it's a little it's a little odd, but that's just how I had to roll because you know how it is with 6 kids or 5, you're always interrupted. So I said, I'm not finishing. And my poor husband would come home every weekend and he'd go, so I'm taking the girls to church, or Kate, and I'm like, yeah, shh, beat it, you know? And I just kept going and going. And then, yeah, so, um, my life is like a lot of other people's. I'm a busy mom, and I worked for 20 years in a company, actually a health company, a nutrition company that was a huge part of my life in sales. My oldest son was born with supraventricular tachycardia, and my third had pneumothorax, collapsed lung. He almost went on ECMO, and I was just forced to pay attention to what was going on around me, and it really changed my life for the better. I loved living in the city of Boston and being close to all the medical professionals and being a part of the Boston Athletic Association and running, 70 miles a week on the Charles River was, believe it or not, joy.
Sure.
Not everybody's path, but that's kind of how I started. And we moved to LA right at the end of COVID, August of 2022. and it took us forever to find a house. Finally did, and you know, it's been pretty cool living here, though. I really appreciate a lot of the people that I've gotten to know, and I'm
But it's been
grateful.
been a transition. We're going to
Yes,
talk
big
about that move.
transition.
We're going to talk about that move in a second, but tell us a little bit about, okay, so you're a marathon runner. You kind of, this is kind of the backdrop of this book. This book has got more than running in it, let me tell you, friends. But tell us about, you told me before we got on this show that you built a track in your backyard when you were 16 years of age. You
Yeah.
started running around. How big of a backyard did you have, by the
It
way,
wasn't
Kate?
that big. No, you
Okay.
know how it is. We're all packed into these bedrooms, and my poor father, that was back when we had like the cordless phone, and my boyfriend would call, and he would flick the lights on in the backyard, and I'd be running in circles, and he'd be like, "Hey," he called me Killer as a nickname, and no, he was losing his marbles. My poor dad was like, "Oh my God sakes." We were all losing our marbles. So running in circles just seemed to make sense at the time. I actually got bit by a dog. I got bit by a dog running a German Shepherd. So then that's why I went, took it in the backyard. But I was on a high school track team. I was fast. I quit because at that point, you know how it is. You know, you have a large chest size. They didn't make great running bras. It took one comment from my boyfriend to tell me I was going to bruise my chin, and bye-bye sneakers, no more track. So that was the end of that. And I didn't run until I was 40. I got to be 40. Like many parents out there, you think you're done when you're 40, but you've actually just started. And you know, after having that big medical emergency and loss in London prior to that, I just I was so thankful to be able to have the health to be able to do that. So that's kind
So,
of
so that was the beginning of your of kind of going back to running. You were obviously you were probably a pretty good runner when you were a high school kid. Did you run long distance, or what did you run?
I did the 800.
Okay,
No, I did yeah. But ironically, when I think it was my daughter was born, our second one, we were living in Beacon Hill,
yeah.
and it was just a regular day. And my husband said, "Where did you go?" And I said, "I just ran out to Watertown and back." And he said, "Kate, that was like 14 miles." And that was when I realized, oh, you know, this is a natural thing for me now. So I didn't even think about it. I just went. So everyone's different. Some people have the long, and some people can't do long, but I don't know. I
Well, 800 has got to be one of the toughest races out there. Let me tell you, you got to be long, and that's a long run, and you got to be fast on that one. So that's a tough. You must have been pretty fit. I can tell you that. So you kind of alluded a little bit to what happened. You ended up, you were living in Boston. You were uh,
yeah, we were
were you running at that point when you were in Boston before you went to
no,
London?
you know, pregnancy and running just don't go hand in hand. It
That's
was
right.
I had to put it on, you know, I was way too concerned with not having enough body fat. So I just said, no way, I'm not running when I'm pregnant. So we had three kids, and I had applied to the Institute of Health Professionals at Mass General to be a nurse. I wanted to go through the nurse practitioner program.
Yeah.
I was accepted. And then my husband came home and said, "Kate, they asked me to open up an office in London." And I thought, oh no. I mean, we had, you know, and I could looked at his face and I thought, oh God, you know,
Yeah.
because I could tell he wanted to go, and I don't do well with moving. So that's, but I went, and yeah, I went. And after we got there, it's a different environment, right? Everything is confusing there between the money and the roads and I don't know. I'm just an old-fashioned mom that wanted to take care of my kids. I didn't need all the glitz and the glamour.
Yeah.
So after sitting on it for a little bit, I thought, you know what? We're going to end our family and have another baby. That's what we're going to do. And it didn't work because that's how life happens, right?
Yeah.
So 6 months, a year goes by, and we got pregnant with identical twin boys in one sac, one placenta, which our doctor had told us right away, you know, this is extremely high risk, and you know, I would highly suggest that you take a cord and do cord occlusion and save one boy. at least.
So two cords with one placenta is what you're saying,
No,
right?
one cord, one placenta, one
One,
placenta, one sac. So the two boys inside the sac. Like
but
most twins have,
they had two. They each had their own umbilical cord.
I believe they did, but
Yeah, they would
okay.
have. But
Yeah,
one placenta supporting those two babies. Okay, but
right.
they're in the same set. And so this is a rare thing. Doesn't happen very often, obviously. They're identical twins. They're in one sac. And tell us, okay, so when that was discovered, so this was after I think a 2-year hiatus. Is that you were trying to
Mhm.
have babies for a couple of years? Is that correct?
Yeah, because I was
Yeah,
getting in my later 30s. My youngest was 3 at this point.
yeah.
It had to, yeah, we were trying since he was about 18 months, which wasn't
Okay.
normal, but for me, but I think it was all stress related and I don't know. But yeah, so
So
that
you
was
so you were pregnant and we're going to talk a little bit about the uniqueness of us in a second, but tell us what the doctors looked at you and say, "Yeah, you have twins," and then here's what
here's
you
the grave
here's the other
news.
side of that coin. Go ahead.
Right. It was a woman, and I'll never forget. She tipped her glasses and said, "This is very dangerous, and I see this ending tragically a lot, but here's your chances. 33% chance one lives, one dies. 33% chance they both die. 33% chance they both live, but expect a spinal bifida or a mild handicap on one, maybe both." And that was the information we got. So, you know, I was 37, and yeah, it was pretty heavy, and Paul and I had to think long and hard about what I was never going to choose. I couldn't live with myself if I did that. So at that point, I made the decision to just, own love and own what happens and that life is a life. And, I was blessed to have them. And, I pictured my life with a handicapped child. I set it all up in my mind, in my faith, and did everything possible. We had little heart surgeries at 13 weeks. We had all kinds of hiccups. Twice a week, I was scanned. I was moved from the private system to the NHS system. And finally, at about 20, I think 25 weeks or 26 weeks, I had the laser ablation surgery with Professor Nicolaides, who specializes in saving twins by going in and cutting the blood vessel that causes twin to twin. So they were giving me hope. And
Yeah.
ironically, we lived in London in South Kensington near Chelsea, and we went to St. Mary's Church. And one day I got this knock on the door from my priest, and he opens the door and says, "Katie, sit down." And I said, "Father Stewart, what are you doing here?" And he said, "I just had this very strong sensation to pray for you. I was in Medjugorje, and I thought, yeah, because where I'm going to have a miracle, everything is going to be okay. Um, I went through that surgery with this Professor Nicolaides, and he held my hand and said, "One hand is going into your womb while I hold the other, and at any point, these heartbeats could stop." And I just laid there. And after the surgery, they were still beating, and he said, "Go home. You're going to have two healthy boys."
Mm.
And so that was what I was really thinking, you know. Um, But I was in and out of the hospital for a lot of different things. It was a very, very intense period of time that tested everything about yourself, your mind, your stamina, your faith, your life about to change, how you're going to be as a parent, how you're going to be, I was a little naive in the sense of not fully understanding the
Sure.
real risks, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes we're thrown into things, other times we have choices to make, but I was never going to make the choice to terminate. That wasn't going to be what I was going to do. So,
Sure. So you were kind of walking into this with a little bit of faith, obviously a lot of faith. By the way, I just want to comment from as a medical person. What Kate is referring to is a twin to twin transfusion. And what happens when babies share the same placenta is that there can be intermingling of the blood, and sometimes we call it a steal, that one twin will steal more of the blood flow, if you will, from the other one. And what happens essentially is that flow to one and not the other results in two things. Number one, the one who gets too much blood becomes almost is too much, and they can go into potential heart failure because the body of these little babies can't handle that kind of volume. The one
Mhm.
who is not getting the blood becomes starved, if you will, of blood supply, and that causes realize that internally in a child who is not receiving enough blood flow during development, their organs don't develop as completely.
Mhm.
They're basically starved, and so they're not developing in the same way they should, and therefore they are at risk for essentially failure because of starvation, if you will. It sounds kind of weird because how do you starve in the womb, but that's not what happens. And also, because they're not getting the blood flow, they come out profoundly
Anemic.
anemic.
You're right.
Anemic, and that was so the surgery that Dr. Nicolaides did was essentially to try to intervene at that point and
Yes.
circumvent that potential. And obviously, it wasn't. He did his surgery. I think you had two
Hmm.
surgeries. Is that correct?
Yeah. One
Eh,
earlier on.
Right. And then and still there was still this ebb and flow between the two of them, and so it wasn't completely successful. Correct.
Well, they never really said that or showed that. That was the tricky part, is we were never told that there was even any twin to twin. The reason I did that second surgery was to be proactive for what was to come, because usually the
Okay.
twin, it starts to happen toward the end. So anyway, um, a couple weeks after the surgery, I woke up in the morning and I was shaking everywhere, and my whole body was in like massive pain. It felt like somebody was taking a knife and stabbing me in the stomach. Um, and my husband had taken the older three kids to breakfast, so he rushed home. That's really all I remember. I remember going in and having, being rushed to the hospital. And it's just every mother's worst nightmare, really. I woke up coming, they knocked me out. I had been emergency C-section. One of the boys came out alive, healthy. Sam, we named him Sam. The other one, exactly what you were talking about. He pushed all the blood right in. Miles was the other little boy. He came out and died right away. Um, and I was still knocked out. I didn't know anything, and I woke up with a nurse whispering in my ear, "You have an angel in heaven, but you have a son." You know, oh, it was awful. It was just, my sisters flew out right there. My poor best friend was there, and it was just like, when you have a really bad dream, you wouldn't picture one if this happening to one of your kids. So, but the good part of the story is that period of time after that is truly was a gift to me in the long frame of life, because I think every human being to some degree wants to avoid darkness and pain and loneliness and numbing. There's a pandemic of all kinds of mental health issues and people that numb the pain. I had no experience with that. And I thought I was going to be okay and I could process. My husband was okay. Um, but I wasn't okay. I was not okay. And I didn't even know who I was. I kind of faked it for a little bit. And then,
Yeah.
so it was an interesting, incredibly interesting period of time for me, because I learned these kind of tricks. I mean, faith was a big part, but other things that really helped me for the remainder of my life. I was only 37 years old, so the last 15 years have been, I mean, truly like a magical period of my life, because I was able to kind of differentiate things a little differently than most people.
Yeah.
Um, so it wasn't very pretty for about 6 months to a year, but it was kind of the way I would picture it is sort of like going into a little cocoon and struggling with all of these deep, dark things. Like you're a little kid and you're terrified like that of all these things. And then you blossom from it. So,
Kind of you break through.
mhm.
I want to go back because I read this earlier today before this show came on, and I was extremely moved by it. And I'd like to just read a page of your book, okay? And you're talking about. I want to. By the way, we should also clarify that Sam passed immediately. Miles passed shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
His anemia, they were not able to overcome that, and so both of your boys passed. They both died. And you talk in your book. It says neither Paul nor I had the tools nor prior experience holding a heartbreak to this degree. I immediately blamed myself and felt like it was all my fault. How could I not? A mother's job is to create, birth, and nurture. Her job is to protect her children. They grew in my uterus due to my choices, and it was my job to see both to the end. Paul became even more of a task rabbit than he was before. Do, move, work, and deal. I was the opposite, and then a little blessing came. In the middle of that, all that wreckage, fear, shock, pain, there was this one clear, unspeakable, holy moment. We were all there,
Mm.
all 11 of us, my sisters, Beth, Father Stewart, who you referred to, my kids, the living and the gone in the same room, a room so thick with sorrow and grace it almost hummed, like the air itself knew to hold its breath. The boys were swaddled in soft white blankets, and tiny knitted caps were pulled gently over their perfect heads. They looked just like my older three, who were, when they were newborns, the same mouths, the same cheeks, still and beautiful, so loved, wanted, so impossibly still. And we held them, touched their soft faces, their tiny fingers, curled forever quiet, all of us circling them with every ounce of love we had to give. It was birth and death in the same terrible, sacred breath, a beginning and an end folded into one trembling moment.
Oh, thank you so much for reading that.
Um,
Oh, look, I'm going to make you cry
well,
now.
Well,
Sorry.
I think this is I mean, well, first of all, I can visual what the way you write is so beautifully that I can visualize what this moment was. And to think about that with the three older children and then your two babes who you had obviously this was a family event. You were talking about your pregnancy with your other kids, and this was going to
Oh, they
be a
were all
time of
there.
rejoicing and happiness, and to have this happen was almost beyond the pale. Um, that's what you're talking about. That was the darkness that you then, and I think that there was another point that you said that I thought was so poignant to me, which was after this all happened, your milk came in. Your
Mm.
milk came in. It's kind of like, wait a second, doesn't my body know that the babies are not
Yeah.
here?
Oh,
And all of a sudden your body is not in sync with the
no.
reality of this whole thing. And that I'm sure was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Um, and it was almost like your body was there was a I this sounds kind of weird, but it was almost like your body was mocking what had
Hmm.
happened.
Right.
How did you feel when that happened? You talk about it, but you just looking back, if you can
Um,
remember.
I felt like I felt like I was being tortured. I felt like I had chains around me. It's like, how much more can you take? I mean, I was in a different hemisphere because nobody was living the same experience. It was dark, the days got short, and the C-section had gotten all mangled. And I just remember it was August 9th they died. August 18th was their actual due date when they were supposed to be C-section scheduled. And my kids had switched from the British system to the American school in London, which is in St. John's Wood. And I had to get there and stand in the parking lot acting like, it was just, it was a tough, tough time going back to the school that we had left in June with, you know, this huge belly. Um, and all the kids looking at me saying, Mrs. Santoro, they were so, I don't know. It was interesting because I would have thought I would have been angry, and I wasn't angry. I was just broken, like absolutely. And I promised myself, and it's going to make me cry because, oh, shit, Dr. Bob, you're killing me here. Okay. I promised myself then that, um, that it was important to honor that and tell the story because uh, for all the other people that feel stripped down and don't know how to move forward, I think I finally felt like I could be honest with myself and like own it. Sometimes we have these tragic events that you don't own, and you can't put them in proper form. Like, I'm from the good old Irish Catholic family that shoves every problem under the rug. And my husband is wonderful. Like, he's a he's a really special guy. I mean, his mother was a social worker. Has a very high EQ. And I would never have been able to really go forward, I don't think, without him. But um, no, it was a wonderful, um, beautiful, meaningful time that I want to use to help other people. And if um, the, let's get to the positive part of the story. How about that?
Yeah.
What
No,
about
no,
the
no.
miracle part?
Because no, I want that's yes. I wanted to set the stage here.
Yeah,
You obviously you went into a very deep, dark period, and
very much.
then there was this process of rehabilitation, of renewal, of hope. I guess I
Hmm.
would say. Tell us about that because this
Well,
is a profound. I think this is what everyone needs to hear because
okay.
there's no question. Listen, we all we're human beings. We none of
Well,
us have lived perfect lives.
mm-mm,
We all have sad things that happen, profoundly sad things that happen in our life, and some people need to hear how you get through it. So I'm gonna
right.
let you take it from there.
Okay. Um, so like emotionally, a lot of people can, I would say I was always an upbeat person, happy go lucky, look on the bright side of life. So it was foreign for me to be in this dark dungeon of just oof. And I'd say I remember my mother-in-law saying to me, Kate, grief's a process. You can't rush it. And I thought, oh, shut up. So I tried everything I could. I thought I could just muscle through things. I tried, everything, and nothing was working. So I'd say, like sand in an hourglass, that tiny little bit every day just got a little bit more softer. And I didn't even do anything. I just lived in a deeper, darker place. And um, I tried therapy. I don't think that was very effective for me, but it did teach me one thing. And I write about this in the book. Um, the therapist that I worked with it was painful just trying to communicate with her. But at the very last session, she said something that switched my mindset, which was, Kate, I know this is not what you want to do, but you do seem like a very caring, genuine person. And I'd like to know how you would feel if one of your friends was in this situation that you're in right now. And just saying the words, well, I'd feel terrible for that person and I'd do anything for him. And that's how she ended it. And I walked out down the street and I thought, mm, I am not doing that for myself, am I? And that was really the day things did start to change. I went to church a lot. Um, and ironically, Christmas Eve, I went to the movies to see Marley and Me by myself because I couldn't really deal with people. I was like a walking commercial for sad. So, and I came home, and my husband is a definite visual breast lover, and he notices anytime that I was pregnant that I would have extremely large breasts. So I took my shirt off to get dressed in my pajamas, and he said, "Kate, I think you're pregnant." But I didn't remember even thinking that I was told I couldn't have any more children because I had had 4 C-sections, an infection. Um, I had lost a lot of blood. The story was over with having more kids. So I didn't expect that to happen. But I didn't even take a pregnancy test because I was too afraid. And we went away on a trip with the kids, came back to London, and I remember um, having an experience that I'd never had in any pregnancy where there was a lot of blood. And I just thought, thank God I didn't believe I was pregnant because I'm not. And whatever that was nothing and whatever. So I was sort of going like a little bit like this, tiny bit. And then that just was, oof. So I went to bed, got up the next day thinking I was going to have some type of something. And I went into a hospital room on the whole other side of London and and he told me I had 2 little girls. I was 18 weeks pregnant. Oh God, I know. Yeah. So it was just a moment like where I can't even explain it. It was just such a special period of time. And now they're 16. So anyway, um,
So, okay, so you were pregnant almost immediately after you had the loss,
yeah, well, a couple months, 4 months, 3 months, August, September, October, sometime in November.
and these
Uh,
were obviously they're not identical twins, they're
no, they were the
fraternal
safe.
twins.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so tell us when they said you had twins. Okay, this is like on
I
the
know.
in the the aftermath of what
It
you
was
just
like,
went through.
yeah,
How did
right.
that feel?
Well, it's like walking to the edge. You're walking on the edge of the tightrope like this, and you're thinking, it felt like a wild ride of faith where I kept talking to my faith. I kept talking to God saying, you better know what you're doing because I don't. And this is not, I can't even, I don't know. Every day, just one day at a time, 1 hour. What did really, really help me is I bought this book throughout the times I was hospitalized, The Power of Now. And I read it like a Bible. And I read the Bible, but I implemented it. I implemented it. We all read books. There's very few books that you really design and put inside and you
No,
practice. And that
no.
book I did. I highlighted it. I needed it. And so what it taught me to do was just live in every moment you're in. Savor the seconds, savor the minutes, look at the flowers, look at the beautiful children near you, appreciate everything. And that was the magic that came into my life. And I still live like that. Maybe not to the best degree, but truthfully, like I felt I couldn't really relate to anybody because I felt like I was living this enlightened life every single day. The kids would be like, house was a mess. I mean, the kids would be doing things that most people would say, oh, and I just looked at it with everything with such a loving lens that it's just changed my life for the better. And I feel really lucky. Thank you for letting me share that because I think everybody has a little magic in them, and you just sometimes you'd want to avoid taking risks and avoid, powerful moments that can really teach you things. And I think we drive away from that so often. And I, I think post after having my girls, I've just celebrated my life, which is why I went into the running. I was running like a mad lady of joy and, you know, thank gratitude, really.
So
So
you started running. Okay, so
sorry, I
uh,
know you're.
so here we so you okay because you run 30 marathons and you became a very. I mean, I think you told me that the fastest marathon you ever did was like a little over 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that correct? Is that correct? 3 hours and
Mhm.
what?
Um, Look, it's right here.
Show it to me.
That was 2020.
That's the
3 hours
Boston
and eight
Marathon.
minutes. No, that was
Three.
Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was Houston.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 8 minutes, and 16 seconds.
Yeah.
That is astounding. That is a world class.
Not
Uh,
really. I mean, there's a lot of people faster than me, but it wasn't about the running. It was about the discipline. I'm a very disciplined person, and I feel that having a big family like you have to squeeze in golf. My husband's golf. Everybody's golf, and I could run a marathon faster than a round of golf. I'm thinking this makes way more sense. So I was like Forrest Gump. I was like the lady on the go. I mean, people in Boston that know me just think I'm really funny because I am. It is kind of unorthodox what I did, but I mean,
okay, so you had your babies, you had your girls,
we had to
and
move back. I got to deliver them at the Mass General Hospital because the market had crashed. We pivoted a little bit. We were supposed to stay in London longer, but Paul had an opportunity that it was a long story, but basically we moved home at 28 weeks with the girls.
wow,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because you can't
So that
fly
was in
past.
2008 when the
That
market
was
crashed.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
all
re,
that was just kind of wow, yeah. And
yeah.
Paul was holding that all together and not really sharing anything. And I could have cared less about it. I just wanted to be safe. So when we landed in Boston, we had sold our house. So we had to kind of makeshift, a new setup. And every day that went by, I felt like a miracle to me because the longer that those girls were in there, the better, and I'm built really tiny. Like I think I probably I was humongous and it was the most athletic thing I've ever done. I had veins bulging out of the back of my legs. It was like, oh, carrying, you know, because every day I feared, oh my God, I had I
Sure.
had I was close to septic shock, hemorrhaging, C-section, and I'm like, how is this even working here? But they were
So,
born August 25th. Yep.
and they were what gestational age? How far
Oh,
along were you?
38 weeks,
Okay.
6 pounds each. I mean, it was like a dream you can't even imagine coming
Mm,
true. Oh my
mhm.
God. Perfect. Nobody knew that we were having twins because we didn't want to scare them. Even my own in-laws, nobody knew. They just thought one baby.
I'm
Um,
sorry. So that was what day were they born again?
August 25th.
Okay, so they were born exactly a year and 2 weeks after your baby boys had
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, that was quite a year. That was
That
quite
was
a year.
quite a year. I mean, my main goal was protecting the older kids. I didn't want them to feel anything. They had been through enough. Thankfully, my third son is a total wild man and he keeps everything comical. So he was great there. But my oldest son was his birthday was August 13th, and I still have that picture framed. He's classic firstborn, like very responsible, very him and I were just peas and carrots, because my husband traveled. So he very much took on that responsibility. He read 57 books on the tube back and forth that year. That's what he did to cope with it. 57 books.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you
So
started running. Okay, so that was in 2008.
mhm.
When did okay, you have two twin baby girls. You began to run at this point in time. Is that when you began to become an earnest runner?
You know what? We went to this parish, St. Cecilia's in Back Bay, and there was a very small group of parents that we knew that went there, and this girl who I didn't know super well, but this is the power of female friendships and encouragement. She just tapped me on the back one day and said, "Would you want to do the Boston Marathon this year?" And I had always had this, it's just the best day of the year because it's just fun. And I like being philanthropic. I love the hospital community and the medical community, and it's the best thing you could ever do is run the Boston
Yeah,
Marathon. So
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
"Ooh." I mean, I was just gross. I felt gross. I had no time. I thought, how am I going to do this? Um, but that was the beginning of it. And then honestly, it just turned into a routine and a group. I had this wonderful group of women who we all met at the early mornings and just did it. We just made it happen year after year, two a year. I mean, I got fast enough that I got invited to on the Boston Athletic Association team, which was, I mean, I was running times and harder than I even thought I could. It was like really hard work, but I loved it. I loved it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it's in you.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I told you I ran a couple of marathons myself, and it is a little. I can tell you one thing: when you finish the race, you feel like you've accomplished something. Number one, number two, you, yeah, I mean, for me, this is me speaking. I always wondered, do I ever want to do this again? But
I
I
know.
did do it again. But it is a sense of great accomplishment. And I can see how, with your girlfriends and running together, it would have been almost like a social event as much as
Yeah,
anything. So
sweat social.
you ran the Boston Marathon. I think you have to qualify to get the Boston Marathon, right? Don't you have to
Mhm.
qualify? Not everyone can run.
Yeah.
What is the qualifying time for Boston Marathon?
Oh, back then, I think um, I started out just for anybody who is a beginner runner. I wasn't that good at all at marathon running. You ease into it. It's one of those things. I followed this book, um, Advanced Marathoning, and I just literally just followed the book. I never had a coach. But what I did right was I was very consistent and I lifted weights but I would say Chicago to qualify, I think I needed like three. I wanted to get under a 3:15, so I just went to Chicago and did it there because it was flat and easier to do that. So that got, then it just happens. I just go run Boston and then I qualify for the next year. So
So
it's,
do you have to re-qualify every year?
mhm, yeah,
Okay.
it lasts
Well,
18 months, but um,
yeah.
there,
So
there,
are you still running the Boston Marathon? You still go back?
I registered, but this year in particular, I'm running up Heartbreak Hill, and I had this virus. I had this virus from my daughters, and I didn't realize I had the virus. Oh, and I thought, oh my God, what, I don't know. We'll see. I'll take it. I think I'm going to go to the library again and keep writing. But
That's funny.
no, it's hard. It is hard. It's not for everybody. And honestly, it's not. I think I'm just light on my feet, so my joints and everything have been okay, but
Yeah,
I got it in a ski accident, tore my ACL right when I got really fast and qualified to get into Berlin. We went to Park City and then boom, this guy takes me right out, this big snowboarder, and I go flying down the mountain backwards. And everybody, oh, you'll never run again. Oh, you'll never. It was that whole thing.
yeah.
And I thought, no way, no how. I'm not, So I worked my way back and
So you got your knee repaired, and then you were back at amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So you were a couple other things I want to talk about because you've had such a fascinating, interesting life. I you were there for the Boston Marathon when the bombing occurred. Um, Tell us a little bit about that story because I haven't really, I don't know if I've ever talked to too many people who actually were there at that
Mm,
moment. So you had finished the race, is that correct?
yeah, yeah. And it wasn't that long after, my girls were little. It was close enough to what had gone on in London that I kept thinking, why do I feel like I'm the recipient of these big, huge events all the time? What am I meant to learn here? I was in the medical tent getting my back. I had like a back spasm after the race, and the lady was rubbing it out. And all of a sudden, I heard a boom, and then you heard another boom. And your instincts go completely the other direction. Like, do I need to give blood? People were running into the medical tent that had been, um, oh, it was awful. Like an ear blown off, a little girl in a baby carriage. And I just remember it was awful. I mean, you've creeped out the window, and the entire finish line area, which is always this magical, amazing place, was filled with smoke and papers and absolute chaos. Boston is such a heartfelt city, and it was an unbelievable moment to watch the um, just the amount of emotional energy that was put into everything from bad to good to scary to all of it. But it was quite a moment. I mean, my daughter was at the finish line, and I was so thinking to help the people that I didn't even remember that what to do. I mean, and then I realized, oh my God, Grace is at the finish line. She was at a store called Sugar Heaven, which is next to Marathon Sports, which is where the bomb went off. Paid for her candy, got me a little bag of Swedish fish, walked out 12 to or 28, I forget the number, seconds. We have the camera. Boom, right like that. Just walked right out of the store, right up the street, and then the bombs went right off, and she ran. She was with a friend, but oh yeah, it was a scary time. It was really, really scary time. And but the beauty that came out of all that was just the hospitals. I mean, still the Stepping Strong organization. Oh, we ran for that. My friend that spearheads it all. It's beautiful to watch how Boston has taken that moment and made something really valuable out of it.
Yeah.
They've transformed how we think about pain, and I'm very grateful. And that
Well,
was
I think that one of the things that you really talk about in your book is the fact that things happen and you learn. You learn from them. Something can happen in the aftermath of tragedy that propels you forward. And you're talking about a whole community, Boston, pivoting rather than dwelling what happened, which was tragic and that will always be tragic, but changing it into something positive.
yes.
Um, you also wonder how much can we endure. I mean, the last thing I want to hit on, Kate, was you were living in the Pacific Palisades, and hardly what it has now been. I think about 8 months ago, we went through the fires that devastated the Palisades, and you lost your home. Yet another significant trauma to your life. Um, you're
But you know,
smiling
by
right
that
now.
point, I am because number one, we didn't lose our whole home. We lost everything inside the home, but the windows and everything blew out, the doors, but the actual structure of the home is there, thankfully, thankfully or non-thankfully. But no, I think I'm sure a lot of people have these moments in their life where they have these patterns of,
Yeah,
what is this supposed to mean? Um, and I really that the day of the fires, I felt like, wow, you know, pain and loss is just a doorway to something better. And sometimes in life, you have this blind faith, or you don't. And I developed a sense of blind faith to know that no matter what, everything is going to be fine. And everybody is going to be fine. And we're all going to be fine. We just got to sit with it and be patient and learn to kind of find the light in everything that you have and do and the joy and the beauty, because otherwise it's just too much. I mean, our
yeah.
minds are trained to go that direction, and I think I've learned over the last decade that no go there.
I mean, I'm
And
looking at you. You're smiling. You're smiling at me. I mean, you've gone through so much, but yet you seem to be a cheerful person. Um,
yeah,
is that is this who you are?
yeah, I am. I have a lot of love. And I don't know. I'm very lucky to have a wonderful husband and really wonderful kids who care. And when you just wrap yourself in the things that matter, it just is life changing. And I'm not, trust me, I'm not perfect, and I do sweat the small stuff about little things. Adjusting to things are hard, and coming to Los Angeles was really hard for me because I looked at all the exterior, and you know I remember the day of the fires thinking, I can do this. I can do this because this is what I'm good at. And I want to do this and I want to help other people. And after my brother passed away, I just said, that's the end of it. I'm just going to the library and I'm going to write it all down, and I'm going to use it as a portal for pain for other people to see and hear my story and say, you don't, you can go through something hard and you can become much better for it.
Yeah.
So that's the point.
Um, well, I will tell you that you make the point, um, just from your life. I mean, Kate, you're a survivor, but you're a survivor. You're not just surviving. You're winning. You're a victor,
Wow.
in all of this. And I think that you the back of your book says, "Truth on the run, run through the hurt, find the joy, bleed if you must, just keep going." And I think that, there's a lesson for all of us to learn there, that we continue to, even though we get knocked down, there is this, there is a scripture in the Bible that says a righteous man will get knocked down, many, many times, but will continue to rise. And I think that that's the challenge that you've lived it. And I'm looking at a person who's been through so much, and here you are, and you're telling your story. And I just want to say thank you for telling your story. I mean, it's kind of a tough story to read, to be honest
Well,
with you. Some of these parts, some of these chapters made me cry.
oh, well,
But
thanks for letting me say it. It's not hard because look, everybody, you included, and your 6 kids, your wife, and every other human being, they have a beautiful story. It's just taking the time to do it. And everyone has their own thing. It's just about how you process it. And everyone has the ability to be able to do what I did. And I was the little scared fraidy cat kid that was afraid of the dark and the wind and the shadows. And I look at myself now and think, geez. So
Yeah.
It's interesting how your life, can make you who you are, really, your
Yeah.
life circumstances.
Okay.
But
Listen, I
thank
I
you,
I,
doctor.
I promised to get you out at a reasonable time, and I'm going to do that. But I just want to say thank you, Kate Santoro, for coming and sharing with us your heart, sharing with us your book. By the way, the book is called Truth on the Run, a memoir. Kate Santori, she spells her name Kate Kate, Santori Santoro, Santoro. Uh, and you can find this not only on Amazon but at bookstores, which is good. We
Yay,
like that.
bookstores are coming back.
Yeah, we want bookstores to come back. So see if you can find it in your bookstore. But Kate Santoro, thank you for writing this book. If you're going to go back in your little back to the library down there in Manhattan Beach, I want to get a copy of your next book. Are you actually going to write another book? Is that something you're going to do?
My editor, I knew I was serious when my husband thought I was literally not serious at all. And I'd be coming
Yeah.
home with all these stacks of notebooks, and then I'd put them in the computer. And then I realized I did everything in 9 font. So the original manuscript was 700 pages. I was a writing major, so I can write really well, but the editing part was really hard. So I hired an editor, and she said, "You got to keep writing." So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, Dr. Bob.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you write, you do write beautifully, by the way, and very,
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
mean, visually, I mean, there's so many little comments you made here that I was like, wow, that's really, really well put together. But anyway, Kate, thank you. You're a wonderful lady, and God bless
Right
you
back
for
at
what
you.
you're doing. Friends, those listening, pick up her book. I think it's very, very encouraging in a very funny way.
Yeah.
Because going through these experiences with Kate is you see how she came out, and she's I can tell you right now, looking at you on the Zoom call, you're still smiling, which is rare. Okay, well, Kate,
Thank you,
thanks
Dr. Bob.
again. Thank you again. And friends, thank you guys for tuning in to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Um, until next time, be well. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your day. Tune in again next week on Apple Podcast. Rate and comment and tell a friend.